When he was born on July 10, 1928, in Lucerna, Italy, it seemed unlikely that Gustavo Bunos would become a renowned surgeon and researcher, or that he would pioneer groundbreaking discoveries, one of which would lead to the creation of Immunotech, a company devoted to quality health products.
It's the beginning of the story. 18 years ago, I was working at McGill with Dr. Conshayan. Discoveries are not made by scientific committee, are made by individuals who have been lucky and persistent. When I began my research study on the effect of whey protein concentrate in mice, that's the animal we were using for, I did not expect to stumble on the role of glutathione. What we did, in fact, we observed accidentally that mice eating this type of protein were able to mount a stronger immune response when challenged with bacteria, antigen, or cancer. But then later on we observed that these animals, in fact, were able to synthesize glutathione more effectively than the control animal. And then, of course, we had to find out what was the role of glutathione, and that we took advantage of the enormous and abundant data from the medical literature on the function of glutathione. The way it operates as a detoxifier, it links with the poison through an enzyme called conjugase. And when they are linked together, the poison becomes soluble. And if a poison is soluble, it's no longer poison. It leaves the body through the urine. For example, lead, cadmium, and all sorts of carcinogen.
Gustavo Bunos's discoveries have yet to reach their full potential, and the benefits of whey protein isolates are a work in progress.
We will pursue in the path of research, clinical, experimental, so that the future may be even better than the past. And we know more about the mechanism of this particular medical food, so that we'll be able to treat more efficiently certain diseases which are now escaping from conventional treatment.
So I'll never forget his first words. He said, "You know, I'm actually a surgeon, but I don't know. I have always been intrigued by the fact that babies who get mother's milk for 6 months, 12 months, are much more healthy than those on the best baby food. They don't get allergies so soon, they don't develop cancer so soon, they just have a stronger immune system. So what's the difference? Mother's milk. So it has to be in mother's milk."
Ever since I heard about the work of Dr. Bunos, I realized that he was a very special scientist, because he had chosen to work on a subject which was quite different from most of us. Most of our colleagues at that time would not have guessed that milk proteins would become as important as they are today. So in retrospect, actually, we call Gustavo Bunos a man with vision. There is good evidence the amino acid cysteine is not only a precursor for our proteins, it's also a very important source of glutathione, a major antioxidant in our body. The availability of cysteine and glutathione decline with age, and whey protein is actually the best natural source for cysteine. So Gustavo Bunos, through his work, provided health benefits for many people.
The case of this lady I'm referring to, she had pulmonary fibrosis. She had no lung function left when I saw her. She had 1 liter lung capacity. She couldn't breathe. She was a candidate for a lung transplant. She had no other choice. She was treated with antibiotic, bronchodilator, steroid without effect. Then comes along this milk-derived protein that cured her. Sounds like a stunning statement to make, but she was well documented by 2 independent lung disease specialists at McGill in 2 different hospitals. She was given the treatment with this whey protein concentrate called Immunocal. She lung capacity went back to 3 liter, 0.3. She was stopped the treatment. She went back to 1 liter. She was gasping for air 2-3 times to make sure it was not a fluke, it was a real effect of the treatment. Now, this The second lesson we derive from her is a lesson of humility for the established medicine. Because if steroid, the best of antibiotics, bronchodilator, couldn't do anything for this lady, and here comes this milk-derived protein that actually cured her. It's been now a year since. She's doing very well.
In the case of Nina Pertouche, she recognized that despite taking a variety of medications, her condition was not improving. She started taking Immunocal on her own initiative and had a dramatic improvement in her function. When her doctor called me up, he was quite surprised, but when we discussed it, I discussed that there was a very good basis for why it might be improving. Nina then subsequently went off the product and her symptoms came back. It was at that point that Nina got in touch with me, and what I suggested to her that if she was going to go back on the product, that we could study her before and then 1 month after going back on the product. She told me she was going back on the product, and so we organized for her to come in, and what we did is we measured her lung function and we measured her glutathione levels, and then we saw her 1 month later, and with much to Nina's pleasure and to our own pleasure, Nina had a dramatic improvement in her lung function and a dramatic improvement in her glutathione levels.
This is one case that I've been following very carefully. This is of a woman who had Hodgkin's disease, which is a type of cancer, and she was subjected to a lot of radiotherapy. Subsequently, she developed a lot of scarring in her lungs, something we call pulmonary fibrosis. And this pulmonary fibrosis left her quite breathless. She was someone who was very active. She was a lawyer. She was taking care of her kids, and she found herself stuck at home, essentially on home oxygen. Now, we tried all different kinds of treatment. We tried inhaled steroids, bronchodilators, different kinds of medications, and really she just was not getting any better. One day she showed up to her pulmonary physician saying, look, I can breathe. And not knowing whether this was placebo or not, we did some pulmonary function tests on her, and sure enough, she was back to 95% of normal.
You know, after 20 years of being very concerned in the wellness industry, concerned about what the individual could do for their own self-protection. In fact, even after going through medical school and being involved in medical practice, I had never had this particular idea go through my mind of the individual cell protecting itself. See, each particular cell in the body is trying to protect itself for its own health. The cell on the face is protecting itself against an ultraviolet ray when you're sunbathing. A cell in the gut is protecting itself from a carcinogen that gets into the diet. Every cell in the body is protecting itself on a daily basis. And in order to do that, this cell has its own defensive mechanism. And that's where glutathione is so important. It's the cell's principal defensive molecule in its own defense. And what Dr. Bonos was able to do was to allow us to take an action step, to do something to enable the cell, to facilitate the cell being able to make more glutathione in its own protection. And by being able to do that, I think he has started a revolution.
All this research being done in glutathione, all these thousands of articles that are coming out, people still ask the question, why can't I just eat glutathione? In fact, you can't eat glutathione. What happens when you eat glutathione? It gets broken down in your digestive tract and it ends up being passed. The only way to raise glutathione in your body is to eat the building blocks for your body to manufacture glutathione. We call these building blocks precursors. All that Immunocal does is supply your body with the precursors to make glutathione. A person can, in the comfort of his own home, take a package of this product, mix it up, and ingest it. And once you eat the Immunocal, it enters your digestive tract. It's safely passed into your intestine. It's very easily absorbed. Once it's absorbed, it gets picked up in your bloodstream. And it is the building blocks of precursors that are traveling through your bloodstream. When these precursors get to your cells, there are certain amino acids that are released into the cell, and the cell itself starts to manufacture glutathione.
When Jim Haig approached me in the fall of 1998, he was concerned because he had been on chemotherapy for widespread or metastatic prostate cancer, and his treatment had caused him to have heart toxicity. And because of that, his treatment had been discontinued. and he would have been classified as a treatment failure. And he was left on a small dose of prednisone only because of associated inflammation of the heart muscle. He came to me hoping that I might be able to suggest some kind of alternative treatment, since at that point in time the oncologist had not been able to offer him anything else. And I said to him, look, I'm going to think about possibly putting you on Immunocal because of what I know about it, and I'm going to discuss it with your urologist. And I did, and the urologist said to me, to my surprise pleasantly, why not? Let's try him on it. And so at that point in time, having had the treatment failure, he started on Immunocal, 1 packet per day, and he had, at that time when he started, a PSA of 208. And after 1 month, his PSA dropped down to a level of 28, which in itself was amazing, but it was only 1 month. So we waited until the 2nd month, and at the 2nd month it was 11. And at that point in time, we realized that we were having an amazing response. In addition to which, he felt very much better, much improved. His symptoms of fatigue and of having a depressed outlook were alleviated to a great degree. He felt substantially better and was able to take his vacation in Florida, which he usually does in the late fall, and to be able to look forward to enjoying it. So in other words, it turned his situation around and enabled him to have a much improved quality of life and to resume his life the way he would have liked to at that point in time.
A physician who's been in actual medical practice for just this side of 40 years, I've had many opportunities to observe metabolic problems manifested through the aging process of many of my patients. And Immunocal offers us a chance to reverse some of the ravages of time and actually see improvements that I have never witnessed before.
I have one case of a 48-year-old female with renal cell carcinoma. And it was at the point in her life, basically, that the oncologist had said, you know, there's something we can do for you, but really not very much, and the percentages of survival are pretty thin. And they'd given her several choices. And so I came in contact with this patient, and we put her on Immunocal aggressively, on Immunocal 2 packs 4 times a day. And we also did what we thought was important for her lifestyle changes. And I can say that from that time that we started, we began to see her energy return and her general feeling of well-being almost immediately improve. And then following that, over a period of years now, it's been several years, we have had CAT scan evidence of the primary metastatic sites to actually resolve with no other chemotherapy or irradiation, just on Immunocal and lifestyle, to resolve where now we have, and by the way, the metastasis went to the liver and the lungs and up the lymph nodes in the neck. And we've seen those diminish where all of the pulmonary nodules secondary to this metastasis in the lungs are gone. The major tumors in the liver are gone except one, and that's been shrinking. And all the adenopathy is resolved in the neck and the lymph nodes in the neck. So we've been excited about that, and of course she's been really excited about it, because from a person who had been given 7 weeks to 6 months to live, that's been several years ago now, she's still going strong and enjoying life. So those are the kind of things that we've seen with Immunocal.
One of the most dramatic users or changes in a user that I've observed is the change in Mildred Wade, who's a patient of mine for many years, whom I've watched as a diabetic, difficult to control, and I've watched her deteriorate to the point where a little more than a year ago she became confused. We had her on medication for Alzheimer's disease. She was mentally out in left field a good deal of the time. She had lost her personality. She had lost her enthusiasm. She was barely able to walk. She had become incontinent. She really wasn't functioning as a person anymore. But thanks to the care that her sister gave her, and also to the miracle, and I really think of it as a miracle, of Immunocal. Mildred has regained her mental acumen. She can carry on a good conversation. Her sense of humor is better than ever. She, except for the fact that she has some visual problems that are going to be operated upon soon, her circulation in her legs is better. Her diabetes is controlled in a way that we were never able to achieve before. And she is able to ambulate. She's able to control her incontinence problem is gone. She functions. She walks into my office now. I used to make house calls on Mildred because there was no other way to see her. So in every way, I would offer Mildred as a case in point, not by any chance our only case in point, but a very dramatic and wonderful one whose improvement is 95% due to Immunocal because of the dramatic nature of the change that she underwent after she started it.
20 years ago, there was maybe a handful of articles done on glutathione. In the last couple of years, there are over 35,000 articles written on glutathione. And the potential clinical applications are immense. There's a huge amount of work done in the field of infectious disease, including AIDS, including hepatitis. There's a very, very active teams looking at glutathione modulation in cancer therapy, in the prevention of the side effects of chemotherapy, and even simple things like what glutathione does to the healthy person. There's a lot of research done on athletic people and the average person on how to avoid getting old, what we call anti-aging medicine. One question I get a lot of the times is what effect it'll have on pregnant or lactating women. In fact, I promote raising glutathione very strongly in pregnant and lactating women.
Glutathione is a substance that already exists in your body. It's just that until recently we didn't know how to raise glutathione levels. Now, when I talk about glutathione to a medical convention, for example, I'll put a slide on the wall with 20 or 30 different things that glutathione does inside of your cell.
To have a food product, which I think is the most important development that we've offered to people in their health, their wellness issue, probably since penicillin. So 60 years. And I don't say that lightly, because I think it's very exciting to retool or help the body do its own healing. Because that's almost always, including intensive care, what we're able to offer. We offer support systems until the body heals itself. Now we're providing it with extra building blocks.
We would raise glutathione levels in an emergency setting in people who are suffering from certain overdoses. And what the glutathione would do in that case is allow the person to get rid of these toxins themselves from their body. Now, I knew that this was good in acetaminophen overdose, but what most people don't understand is that glutathione is also critical for getting rid of heavy metals like mercury, like lead, like pesticides, like herbicides, like the breakdown products of cigarette smoke and automobile exhaust, and a dozen other well-recognized carcinogens in our environment. There's so much research and so much material coming out on glutathione that it won't be very long before your doctor is going to be drawing a glutathione level the same way he or she draws a cholesterol level or a sugar level. And people are going to be addressing raising their glutathione levels in the same way that they take vitamin pills every day, in the same way that they brush their teeth every day.
Many companies have realized that we can earn money by claiming you are doing something good for the immune system. But I strongly advise the people who are getting these kinds of advice and these kinds of suggestions to ask for the evidence. The lung cancer study of Immunocal has been published in a peer-reviewed journal, so you can be sure that that has been looked at by independent experts very critically, and its publication has been approved. I'm not aware of any product that comes close to Immunocal.
Science has known about glutathione even since the late 1800s. And we knew a few things about it. We knew about its importance in the function of the lens of the eye.
But after Dr. Bunos's work, the whole study of glutathione really exploded. Last time I checked online, there's over 80,000 articles written on glutathione. So we can say a lot about glutathione, but if we wanted to summarize the three most important things that glutathione does in your body, we would use the acronym AID, A-I-D. A stands for antioxidant, and pretty much everybody knows the importance of antioxidant. Glutathione has been referred to literally as the master antioxidant. All the other antioxidants that you may have heard of, and many that you haven't heard of, none of these can function without the presence of glutathione. Now let's move on to I for the immune system. Again, if you look at the literature, certain authors refer to glutathione literally as fuel or food for the immune system. If you start running low on glutathione, then your ability to fight off certain threats becomes quite blunted. And finally, D for detoxification. When I speak to the general public, I'll tell them that next to water, there's no more important detoxification system than glutathione.